My name is Steve DeLaRoche. I'm the Magistrate Hearing Officer for the City of Daytona Beach Shores. We have code enforcement and compliance hearings this morning. The way this works is the city has the burden of proof. When your case is called, please indicate who you are. The city goes first. They present the evidence of any code violation. After they are done, it is your opportunity to ask them any questions that you'd like. It's not your opportunity to present your case, but if you have any questions, such as when was this picture taken or anything along those lines, you're certainly free to ask them. After you're done with your questions, the city may follow up again, and then it's your turn. You can call witnesses, you can bring pictures, you can show me documents, you can do anything you'd like, and then after that, I will render a decision. At any point you don't understand what's going on, as long as it's your hearing, if you don't understand what's going on in somebody else's hearing, well, I'll be happy to follow up later, but as long as it's your hearing, just raise your hand, honestly, and I will stop what we're doing and explain the procedure to you, because it's very important that everybody understand how this is conducted, because what we really don't want is we don't want to see you again in here. Okay? All right. First order of business is I'll swear in witnesses individually as they come up for hearing, is the approval of the minutes, which I always laugh over because the only people that were here last time were the people, the staff, and I understand you're all new here, but does anybody have any objection to the minutes of the April 21st meeting? Okay. Seeing no objection, we'll approve the minutes. The first hearing, from what I understand, B&Y Incorporated, the respondent is not here. Mr. Morelli has been here for his previous hearings, so perhaps he's running late. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put him at the end of the session, and we'll deal with the people that are here. So the first one that we're going to take up is City of Daytona Beach Shores versus AD1 Daytona Hotels, LLC, case number CDEF 2020-28. Is there a representative for AD1? Okay, and your name is?
It's Becky Darnell.
Okay, Ms. Garnell. All right, so the city will go first. Were you provided with the packet of information regarding your case? Okay. And you've had a chance to review it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Ms. Herstein?
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Just so that everybody here is aware, anything that the city has handed you, they have also handed me, and I have read it through prior to this hearing. Okay? Okay, since you're up here first, would you mind raising your right hand and be sworn? You okay, Gwen?
I'm trying to get to my screen, but absolutely, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. Take your time, whatever you need to do.
I apologize, Your Honor.
That's okay.
So this is how today's going to go.
Well, fortunately, we have paper copies of everything.
So this is a second compliance hearing. It's actually, I'm sorry, it's a first and second compliance hearing. So I will be asking for 2 orders at the end, Your Honor.
Okay.
This was for a vacant building at 2306 South Atlantic Avenue. It has not had an approved use for the last 15 years. It did have to go through the certificate of compliance vacant building process to achieve a certificate of compliance vacant building, which has now happened.
Oh, okay, great.
The initial hearing took place for this case on, actually on January 21st, which was before the initial hearing. There was an outstanding issue inside. There were some lights that, emergency lights that had been removed and needed to be replaced with an electrical permit. But at that point, the manager of the adjacent, across the street property rather, Becky Darnell, who, this property is owned by the same owner. She manages that property and so is also the manager of this property as well.
Okay.
She had said, had asked us to come out on January 21st of this year for a reinspection to find out where all of the, she knew that the one wasn't right, the emergency lights had not been installed, but she wanted to see if everything else could be deemed compliant. And at that time, we were able to deem all of the rest of the violations compliant. Basically, there had been 5 violations and 4 interior deficiencies. And at that January 21st date, all but the emergency lights were deemed compliant.
Okay. And what do you mean by an emergency light?
They had an emergency lighting system inside, the kind that comes on automatically when the rest of the lights fail.
Oh, something like the battery backup?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So you can see the findings of fact for that case that was heard on March 17th. You can see that beginning on page 4B-13.
Right.
It was generated after that March 17th hearing for that one deficiency that was holding up the issuance of the CCVP. Basically, the compliance date that you had given at that time was May 3rd. May 3rd came, no permit had been obtained for the electrical work that needed to be done. I want to also say that at the January 21st inspection, we noted that there were some lights hanging. If you see the top picture, okay, the top right picture, sorry, let's go to the top left picture. June 11th was 2020 was our initial inspection. Those lights were hanging in a row. When we saw them on January 21st, they had then been suspended somehow with some inappropriate cloth or material or cordage, rope of some kind. And so we noted at that January 21st inspection that that was going to be something that was going to prevent them from getting a certificate of compliance vacant property. So while doing the permitting for the emergency lighting, tie that into the electrical permit too, get that covered and get that fixed, and then we'll be able to issue the CCVP unless something else comes up.
Should they be affixed to the ceiling?
They were previously affixed to, if you see in that upper left-hand picture, you can see a board that was across, and you can see that they're evenly in a row. The issue is not that they look even, but that they are affixed, not dangling. Like they can't be dangling by that cordage. With the conduit, you see how the conduit comes across and,
right.
And lower. They needed to be either properly affixed to a permanent surface or removed, and they chose ultimately to remove them.
What was this building used for 15 years ago?
It hasn't been in use since I've been here for 15 years,
Okay.
so I don't know, and maybe the manager, Becky, when she comes up, will have an answer for you, but
Just curious.
I don't know. They've attempted at times to use it as storage for the hotel across the street, the 2323 South Atlantic
okay.
Avenue property, but it's not. It's never been approved to be a storage facility. It really is it needs to stay empty until such time as they make improvements that it can be used for storage. I think ultimately they plan to demolish it and use that for extra parking for their hotel, but that needs to be done in a specific way and with the site plan and proper landscape buffers, et cetera, put in place when it happens, so. There's an affidavit of non-compliance that I generated after that May 3rd date where we had not had an electrical permit come in yet for either of those two lighting issues. You can see that affidavit on page 4B-17. 4B-27 is a screenshot of the permits obtained for this building. This was taken as of June 9th, and it's all the permits for the property for the last 8 years. The top line is showing the electrical permit that was obtained for the emergency lighting, and you can see that it was obtained, if you look at the green box, it was obtained on May 11th. While the emergency lights were inspected and approved on May 12th, and the other lights that I showed you that were hanging with cordage were also removed, and that was approved on May 12th. While doing that inspection, unfortunately, additional electric deficiencies were observed, including wires not in conduit and exposed wires at that time. And Steve was present for that inspection. He went over to the main breaker when it was flipped, a small arc flash.
I read that.
And that's in the main circuit, and that's something that was, again, preventing the certificate of compliance vacant property. We don't like to go through and add additional items that have to be done. Like, I wouldn't walk by and say, I never mentioned paint of the building before, but now I want you to paint before we can give you a certificate of compliance vacant property. But the building official can't sign a certificate of compliance for even minimal compliance if there are present imminent life safety issues. And that was, again, it caused us to not be able to issue the certificate. Luckily, the electrical permit that they had obtained had not been finalized because some of those things were noted when the first inspector went.
Okay.
So within 2 days, we had been able to, the electrician had satisfied the deficiencies. We had been able to approve the final inspection for all of those electrical issues, and the CCVP, the Certificate of Compliance Vacant Property, was issued. That was on May 14th, and you can see the affidavit of compliance on page 4B-19. The notice of first and second compliance hearing was sent May 17th, and good service was achieved for that. So today we're basically here to consider compliance by your order date of May 3rd. So that would be the first order that we're going to be asking for, which is an order number 11. The property was not compliant by your order date. And then also for you to consider what action is appropriate for the 10 days of non-compliance, May 4th to May 13th, which accrued at $125 per day for a total of $1,250, and administrative fees for today's meeting of $149.09.
Right, and I see they paid the previous administrative fees.
Absolutely, Your Honor. And I do not have an authorization to represent for Ms. Darnell, but she has been my contact almost 100% of the time. She's the manager for the owner of that property, which also incorporates this property. I'm comfortable with her speaking on the record, but I just wanted you to know that we don't have that authorization.
Okay. I noticed in your correspondence chain that her name frequently popped up. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Darnell, do you have any questions for Ms. Mufti?
I do.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to say? Come on up.
No, I'm not contradicting the compliance of May 3rd.
Okay.
We've been working closely with Wynn the whole time, the building emptied out. It was mostly previous owner, just items we got out of there. Getting the electrical permit was where I started to have some issues.
Okay.
We are under renovation at the hotel across the street, so it made most sense to use the electrician that we had. And that did not happen. some changes in personnel were happening with the GC, and that's where we started getting on the deadline. So I'm not fighting, we were definitely not compliant, but not for lack of trying. So we basically have emptied out the building. I took out all the lights because as Gwen said, we plan on, it's gonna be parking eventually. So I don't need the building, and I've also shut the power off.
Oh, all right.
It's just sitting. And I do have maintenance, as well as myself at the hotel. They're maintaining the outside. So we'll keep it up until my company decides what to do.
Okay. The city is asking for non-compliance for 10 days, which is $1,250 and $149.09.
I understand.
Is there anything you want to say about that?
Again, just, I don't know if it's possible, some lenience after the initial inspection, after the permit was obtained, just because we had additional work that we did need to do that we weren't aware. And at that time, we took everything out. So that's all, just if possible.
Is there anything you'd like to say in mitigation?
No.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you being here. I'm going to issue an order number 11, finding you in non-compliance for the 10 days. Note that you are in compliance. I'm very grateful because you don't see a lot of compliance that rapidly. Unfortunately, with no mitigation, I don't have much of a choice. I have to fine you $1,250 and ask that you pay the $149.09. The $149.09 within 60 days. How long do you need to pay the $1,250?
I think within the 60 days as well.
Within the 60 days? Okay. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Would you mind staying up just for a second in case you have anything that you want to?
Oh, staying up.
Yes, if you don't mind. May I please ask that all of the slides that were presented and in the packet that was both given to His Honor and also to Ms. Darnell be admitted to the record as evidence?
Yes, they'll be so admitted, not hearing any objection.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay?
No, that's okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Darnell.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, what was it used for? I just found it odd with that barrel roof.
I mean, we purchased the property in 2018. I became the manager later that year. It looks like just storage. We honestly since we're under construction, we had some things in there, but most of it was just old furniture, whatever they had, and there's a bathroom there, which I don't know.
Okay, it just struck me as a small airplane hangar kind of structure.
It is kind of, it has a roll door and all that. I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next case is DK Daytona LLC, 2225 South Atlantic Avenue, case number PCDEF 2021-26. Is there anyone here on behalf of that case? And your name is, please?
Shamila Mohammed.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Shamila Mohammed.
Okay, and how are you connected to this?
I'm the general manager of the property.
Okay, and did the city provide you with a copy of the packet? All right. Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the code enforcement special magistrate's notebook for this case be accepted as evidence along with the slides which are about to be shown and/or are in the packet.
Is there any objection? Okay, they'll be so accepted as evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. We do have an authorization to represent for Shamila Mohammed for today's proceedings.
Okay.
The initial hearing took place for this property and was basically regarding, I apologize, I'm so sorry. This is an initial hearing to address basically non-compliance of violation G. There are other violations. This is a hotel called the Akutiki. It's a Best Western hotel. Basically, there were violations A through G, which were initially sent in a notice of violation. But I want to give you a quick history so that you understand what I'm asking for and why. Previously, this property came before the special magistrate for a different case, but the similar situation back in August of 2020. Basically, they had at that time failed to obtain permits and were using this emergency generator that you can see in the picture in a location that it wasn't approved for.
Okay.
By the compliance date, permits had been obtained, but the generator was not functional yet. But due to the violations as written and also the order as written, and the fact that and the approved final inspection, which took place for the specific violations as they had been written for that case, the fact that the permits did not have to be final approved as a condition for compliance at that time meant that because the permits were obtained, it was allowed to become compliant and proceed.
Okay.
But unfortunately, it didn't bring the matter to a close, it just made those violations compliant. If you follow me.
I understand what you're saying.
The permits, but they didn't have to get final approval for the permits for that case to be deemed compliant. So it was made compliant.
What are the triangles all over the picture?
That was what we had used at that point. The triangles were indicating that this generator, when it was in this spot for that case, it was too close to a lot of areas where the fumes could have penetrated the building.
Okay.
In a way does not meet code. So I just didn't take the triangles out to show you. And it's no longer in this location. It's now in an approvable location, but it's not functional and not approved yet.
Okay.
So that case at the time, we closed it with an affidavit of specific compliance to note that you were compliant with the terms of that notice of violation and order, but that we're not guaranteeing that the gas line is acceptable, that the generator is functioning at that point. And this information was obviously sent to the property owner at the time and was also conveyed to a prospective owner during a lien search for the property, which happened in December of last year.
Where is the fuel tank?
And that's
Where
a
does the
question-
gas come from?
That's a question that we can ask Inspector Edmonds when
Okay.
we bring him up. You can ask him that as well. Basically, in December, the current owner purchased the property, and that was of last year. And there were those permits that had been obtained, which were still open. The building, the electrical, and the plumbing permit, basically plumbing for the gas, to cover the gas, for the generator were still overlaid and were still active, sorry. On March 22nd of this year, those permits expired without final approval. So at that time, a notice of violation was written, page 58-18, for the expired permits, but also for the fact that an unsafe situation is created by the generator not being functional. Good service was achieved for that notice of violation. On April 9th, the engineer called. He said they needed another week. They had trouble getting TECO, the gas company, to come out and run certain lines that needed to be run in the right-of-way to bring everything home and make it a serviceable solution. April 14th, the contractor of record extended his 3 permits which had expired until May 14th. After additional communication with Ms. Shamila, the general manager, but no compliance, we sent a statement of violation request for hearing and notice of hearing. Good service was achieved for that. And then Monday afternoon, I did speak with the general manager again. She called. They had really hoped to become compliant by the time of this hearing. Unfortunately, there were still some things which weren't right. additional parts needed to be ordered, et cetera, in order to make everything function again. So today's hearing is not regarding the permits themselves. You're probably familiar with the governor's order 20-52, which allowed permits to be extended during this emergency. That has since been lifted, but it still goes on for an additional time period. So we're not here today about those permits because the general contractor did extend those permits properly. But we are here about the fact that there's an unsafe situation that has been created by the generator not being up and running.
Okay.
It's not about the permits anymore. And earlier, basically the contractor is taking responsibility when these permits, when he has active permits for a situation like this, he's taking the responsibility for it. But because it hasn't repeatedly been brought to its conclusion, it's not, the city doesn't feel it's acceptable to just say, well, the contractor has the responsibility. We want it to get moved to its conclusion, which is a functional generator.
Okay. Do you have a picture where the generator is presently located?
I don't, and but when we bring Steve up, we'll ask him to describe that location. We are going to be asking for an order number 7 and 60 days to correct, or fines of $250 per day would be imposed. But I would like to ask Steve to come forward so that we can ask him some questions.
Good morning, Mr. Evans. Please raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you hear the questions I asked Ms. Herstein?
Yes. First one on the gas is a natural gas. So it's a service that's provided by TECO that's piped in through the city underground.
Oh, okay, so there's no fuel tank,
Directly
it's
to the generator.
like a
there's no
utility.
fuel tanks on site or anything like that.
Okay,
Second is location of it now. It's been put in the front of the building. This was for an elevator tower that was installed on the building. They installed an extra elevator. And the elevators require backup emergency power for life safety. And so it was moved around over by the elevator. And that's why they had to run a new service, because they had to run jack and bore a new service underneath their parking lot to get to the
okay.
location.
And this location is acceptable to the city?
Yes, because there's no openable windows or anything there, so it's all sealed there.
Okay, great. So the main issue is they have the generator, it's just not installed and not working.
Right. Yeah, it
Okay.
has to automatically transfer when the power goes out. It has to automatically transfer power from the elevator over to the generator and keep the elevator working so people don't get stuck in it.
Okay, makes sense. Ms. Mohammed, do you have any questions for either of the city officials?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
If I may ask Steve just a couple of
Sure.
questions for the record. Steve, if you would please have the slides that have been shown and in the packet, the paperwork that was generated bearing your name, are they an accurate reflection of those that you created over the course of the case?
Yes, they are.
And are the communications that have been had that you've read over, well, first of all, have you read them over?
Yes.
And are they an accurate reflection of the communication that you're aware of that happened over the course of the case?
Yes.
Okay, I appreciate it very much. So we are asking again for an order number 7 with 60 days to correct, or August 16th, 2021, or $250 per day would be imposed with administrative fees for today's proceedings of $162.89. There's an affidavit for those on 5A-30.
Mr. Evans, is 60 days a reasonable period of time to get this done?
Yes, I believe they already have the line installed, so it's
Okay.
just a matter of finishing up, and I think they had some problems with the way the generator was being set up, and so they just have to get the contractor there to get the setup, the initial of the transfer switch done.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Anything else, Ms. Herstein?
I did want to ask Ms. Shamila if 60 days
Could you come
was...
up, please? Thank you.
Good morning, Ms.
Good morning.
Mohammed. Is the 60-day time period that the city's asking for consistent with what you've been told you need in order to bring it to its
Yes.
conclusion?
Yes.
And do you think that it's a generous amount of time, or do you think it's going to be the 59th day that you become compliant with it?
I think that's enough time. Everything has been done already. plumbing work and electrical work, everything is done. They're just troubleshooting the elevator. Right?
Okay, well,
So I think it's enough time.
I'm always aware that you're not the person doing this, so I want to make sure that despite your good intentions, you don't run afoul of the time period. So 60 is enough?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's a reasonable time.
Is there anything you'd like to tell me?
There's a
No,
microphone right there if you like.
I think, no, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, all right. Then, having heard the evidence, I'm going to issue an order number 7, order that you come in compliance within 60 days, and that you pay $162.89 in administrative costs, and can you do that in 60 days?
Yes,
Do you have any questions? Do you understand what's going on?
yes, I do understand.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. You know, having been a judge and everything before, I don't think I've ever seen anybody with such a big smile when I gave them a fine.
That's excellent, somebody excellent in the hospitality business.
Yes. Okay, next case is 5B. It is Elizabeth Smith, 2967 South Atlantic Avenue, Unit 1101, and case number PCDEF 2021-04. Is Ms. Smith here? Morning, Ms. Smith, how are you?
Good.
I know this is Ocean 6.
Yes.
I used to live there,
Oh, okay.
so quite a while ago. All right, have you had a chance to receive the packet from the city?
Yes, I have.
And have you looked it over? Did you have enough time to read it and look it over?
Yes, I have.
Okay, all right. Ms. Herstein?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to ask that each of the documents provided by the city and the code enforcement special magistrate's notebook for this case be accepted as evidence along with the slides, any slides which are about to be shown.
Okay, Ms. Smith, do you have any legal objection to any of the documents in the packet?
No.
All right, then they'll be received into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Back in May of 2019, a permit was obtained and final approved to disconnect vanity plumbing in one of the bathrooms in this unit. 6 months later,
Vanity plumbing refers to plumbing to a vanity, not some sort of fancy pipe system, right?
I'm sure that's coming, but
Okay.
I'm not aware of it yet, yes.
All right. I read that last night, and I was wondering what vanity plumbing was. Okay, please proceed.
6 months later, in November, an incomplete building permit application was submitted along with the electrical and the plumbing applications which were required. And that was submitted to replace kitchen cabinets and both bathroom showers. Periodic calls were made to the contractor regarding additional items that were needed, but the application package was not completed, and after 6 months, the applications expired. In November of 2020, the issue was forwarded to code enforcement for action. I called the owner's phone number on the permit application, basically explained the situation. We had been, through the building department, reaching out to the contractor about the needs that we had, which is absolutely appropriate and customary. But in this case, I wanted to know from the property owner if she was even aware that this was an issue. I made her aware of the issue, we discussed it, and she basically told me most but not all of the work was completed. She was surprised, she indicated that on the phone, and she said she'd reach out to the contractor to make sure the permits were obtained. Unfortunately, after 2 months without any resolution, I sent a notice of violation. This was returned to the code enforcement office as undeliverable, so on March 29th of this year, we achieved good service by posting, and you can see affidavits for that service beginning on page 5B-10. A few days later, on April 1st, the owner called and we discussed the matter again and a few different scenarios of how she might bring the property into compliance and about how inspections could be done after the items were in areas were closed up. April 29th, we received a replacement building permit application. The plans examiner confirmed that the firewall work needed to be completed by a building or general contractor, and unfortunately the person who had submitted the application was a residential contractor, so he didn't have the license required to do the work. This was conveyed to the owner when she called and asked shortly thereafter. She was able to log on through our permitting site that shows what permits are in progress and are active on the internet, and she was following along and following up to make sure at this point that it was being done. After another 3 weeks had passed without additional submissions, I generated and sent a statement of violation request for hearing and notice of hearing, and you can see that beginning on page 5B-17. Good service was achieved for this, this notice. I believe at this point Ms. Smith has secured a contractor who she believes is going to be able to carry it through to its final end and final approval with permits. He is, I believe, a general or building contractor, so has the right license required to obtain the permit. This is a screenshot of the permit activity in the last 8 years for the property, and you can see that by June 13th at 9:48 a.m., the only permit that we've had at this point that would help rectify this scenario is the top one, but it is still, as of yet, incomplete. We don't have everything we need in order to issue it. We're requesting that an order number 7 and that 60 days be given or until August 16th, or fines of $150 per day would be imposed. And we are requesting that that 60 days include getting us to the approved final inspections on all required permits for this work. We're also asking that $149.09 be approved, imposed for administrative fees for these proceedings. And you can see an affidavit for that on page 5B-24. And as Steve has had some involvement in this case, I would like to quickly bring him up.
Okay.
Steve, if you wouldn't mind stating your name and position for the record and how long you've worked for the city.
Steve Evans, City of Daytona Beach Shores, Building Inspector, Plans Examiner. I've been here 17 years.
Thank you, Steve. And are the conversations that have been described and first of all, have you looked through the packet that was prepared for you? And have the conversations that were described, do they represent an accurate representation of your understanding of the conversations that have happened with regard to those you've had?
Yes.
Regarding this case? And the documents that have been presented in this packet, do they, with your name on it, do they represent a clear and accurate, are they the documents that you prepared?
Yes.
Thank you, Steve. Do you have anything you want to add that I haven't brought up?
Like I say, we posted this, on their door.
I saw
and
the
also-
picture.
Yes, and I also, because I know the management company that's there told me that she works from home, I actually, after I posted, I knock on the door and speak with the owner as well, just to make sure that she gets it right away, because it is time sensitive, so.
Right,
So
okay.
I know both of them were posted on the door and hand delivered to her, so.
What's the progress of the work? I noticed this has been going on for 2 years.
That's the
On
only.
this curve? Okay,
All we have is permits so far, I think so.
all right. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Ms. Smith, do you have any questions for either of the city officials?
No, I don't.
Oh. Is there anything you'd like to tell me? Come on up, please.
Just that I was trying to work with my contractor to get this squared away, and I get nothing back from him. So I have hired Newberry Construction. I'm in the process of doing the contract with him. I'll be signing it today, and he's going to take over and make sure that everything is done.
Okay, what were you trying to do?
As far as
Renovations?
just replace the original old stuff with brand-new stuff. So,
Okay.
yeah, redo it, remodeling the bathroom, kitchen, both bathrooms and kitchen.
And how far along are you?
The kitchen is pretty much done. There's a little bit of finishing work to do. The only thing that went into the master bathroom was the vanity, because that came with cabinets. And then the guest bath the bathtub is taken out and the shower's been put in.
Okay.
Sink and vanity.
So you're substantially along then?
Yeah, I was under the impression everything was permitted.
I'm sorry about that. I always worry about these type of cases because
My bad.
you're reliant upon the contractor 100%.
Right.
Okay. Do you think you can get everything done within 60 days?
Yes, I've talked to Mike, and he believes we can get done start to finish by in that time frame.
All right. I'm going to issue an order number 7, which finds you not presently in compliance, gives you 60 days to come into compliance. If, for some reason, you don't think you can make 60 days, send us a letter so I can extend it for you, okay? What?
If I may, Your Honor, generally, we would have a first compliance hearing, and then you would hear about
Right.
any circumstances which prevented the 60 days, prevented you from becoming compliant in the 60 days. That would be dealt with at the second compliance hearing once you were compliant. Meaning that some fines could accrue, keep good records and track of why you weren't able to make the 60 days. If you're not, you're comfortable, you probably know my number by heart right now, and so.
She's on speed dial.
Well, do you remember the first hearing where I asked the lady if she had any mitigation?
Okay.
She didn't.
Okay.
I had to give her the entire fine. What I'm saying is that if you realize that you're not going to make it and you send a letter in and explain, I take that as mitigation,
Okay,
okay?
understood.
So I'm not trying to set up a situation where I can excuse something, but I'm just trying to help you understand how I make my decision process,
Okay.
okay?
Yep.
All right, and 14909, within 60 days, can you do that as well? All right, thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you. Thanks, Glenn.
Okay. All right, I see that the owner for the first hearing, B&Y Inc., is now present. And it's Mr. Morelli?
Yes.
All right. Is the city ready on B&Y Inc., case CDEF 2019-74?
It will be in just a moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'd first like to ask that each of the documents provided in the special magistrate's notebook for this hearing be introduced as evidence in addition to any slides which are shown, pictures that are shown, which are also actually in the packet.
Okay. Mr. Morelli, do you have any objection? I know that you were provided with the packet at the last hearing.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sure. The city is asking that the documents that you were provided at the last hearing be placed again into evidence. Do you have any legal objection as to why they should not be placed into evidence?
I don't know. I just don't know what's...
Okay, well, not hearing any legal objection, they'll be placed into evidence. Okay?
That's fine.
All right. Ms. Hurstein?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a first compliance hearing for 2 violations that were left over from the 12 originally cited in the Certificate of Compliance Vacant Property Inspection, which was done on in December of 2019. Violations E, J, and L made it onto the findings of fact at that original hearing. You can see that document beginning on page 4A-14. That initial hearing took place on January 20th of 2020. Basically, 3 items were left incomplete, and at that time you gave the property owner a specific amount of time to correct, and that was I apologize.
It's okay, I'm looking for it in the order as well.
Thanks. Basically, by March 22nd of 2021, this property was ordered to be compliant with regard to these violations. So violation J was brought into compliance by that time frame. Actually, it was within a couple of days after the meeting that was brought into compliance. So that leaves us with violation E, the stucco being cracked in places at a column located at the northeast entrance and at the northeast corner of the building, and L being that the building remains vacant longer than 60 days without obtaining a CCVP. The CCVP will be automatically issued provided no imminent life safety issues have presented themselves, which I don't expect, but as soon as E is brought into compliance. So that's what we're looking at for this first compliance today, hearing today.
Do you have a
Basically,
picture of E?
I have a couple.
Great. All right. So it's at the top of the column there.
The top left is the way that the column was initially. There were cracks that were horizontal. There were there was some vertical cracking as well. They did obtain a permit to open up the column to see the state of the inside, and as it turned out, the column needed to be replaced or to be extensively repaired, but actually I don't think that the repair was an option. So the column replacement was engineered. And as of the compliance date, March 23rd, I took the bottom left picture showing that that had not fully taken place yet. It was a more extensive repair, but knowing that spalling on the outside of that column could have meant that it did need to, it was just more than cosmetic. We did build that into the time frame originally. This was a reinspection picture taken on May 20th that you see that not much changed in that time frame. There are permits in place. There's a permit in place to replace the column, which has been done at this point. There's a brand new column in that spot at this point. That was done under a permit. And then there's another permit that was originally obtained for the cosmetic work and placing. It's more than just cosmetic because there are bolts basically sticking up from the ground and the area at the top is still unfinished. So there is still a permit in place to do that, but the work has not been done. I stopped on the way coming in this morning to see that the column is still exposed, the bolts coming up from the ground are still exposed, and no inspection has been set up for it either. So unfortunately, we're only doing the first compliance hearing today. I was hoping we'd be able to do that second compliance hearing too to discuss the fines, but really today is only about whether or not it was compliant by your order date of March 22nd, and hopefully you can see in that picture that it was not at that point. So today I am requesting an order number 11 and administrative fees of $85.53. Fines have accrued since March 23rd at $150 per day, which means that today's total is at $12,900. But I do expect that at the second compliance hearing, the owner has been very involved and staying on top of it. So I do expect that he will be requesting a reduction, but we're not in a position to do that until the property becomes compliant. And I would like to ask Steve, please, to come up to the podium and see if he has anything to add to this scenario. There is an affidavit for those administrative fees in the packet. Steve, if you would, for the record, again, put your name, state your name, how long you've been with the city and your position.
Steve Edmonds, City of Daytona Beach Shores Building Inspector, Plans Examiner. I've been here 17 years.
Steve, what can you add to this scenario at this point to help the special magistrate understand anything additional?
I know like the owner had some problems with surgery and stuff, so I got a call from an engineer when they were first looking at the column, asked me to meet him out there, so I met the engineer out there to help him design some plans and stuff for this to get project moving, since the owner was not able to get with him at that time, and so they did that. They did actually put the column in place. It just hasn't been trimmed out and finished around the bottom at this point.
Okay. The original column, was that just a piece of
It
steel?
was a steel pipe column, and it was rusted.
Okay.
Most of them that we find when we usually come say, we got a crack, we have a problem, they go, oh, they're perfect. They're usually, once you open them up, you find the problems, and they're usually rusted through, where it's,
Because of the salt air, the crack
Yeah.
just
yeah,
kills them?
they start rusting and they start pitting, and once they get to a certain point, then they don't have the same structural capability.
Okay, and this is load bearing?
It is, it just doesn't have a lot on it, because it takes the whole corner of the roof. It wasn't a lot of weight on it, so it was easy to put one in. It was able to kind of hold itself up while they did the work,
Okay,
but it did have to have it, if there was ever water on the roof or something like that, then that's where it would become a problem.
okay, so what we're talking about is it needs to be painted and,
Yeah, painted, and it has to have around the base, there's a base plate that bolts down to the concrete existing footer that was there, and they have to kind of just put some wood around that or something and paint that,
okay,
just to cover the exposed bolts.
all right, thank you. Mr. Morelli, do you have any questions for Mr. Edmonds?
I got something small to say, and that's it.
Yeah, you can say whatever you'd like. This is your opportunity to ask questions first.
This.
Wait.
this Step, no?
No questions, hold on.
No,
If
I'm
you
not
don't have any
asking
questions, I'm gonna give the city their last word, and then
Okay.
I'll let you say whatever you'd like,
Okay.
okay? Anything additional, Ms. Hursty?
No, Your Honor, except that I'm hoping that we're here next month for the second compliance hearing.
I know we were not here last month. Are you expecting we'll be here next month?
I am, sir.
Okay, all right. It's not fair to tell people that, you're not in compliance if we're not holding a hearing and it stretches out an extra 30 days because we weren't here.
I understand, Your Honor. Even if we don't have a hearing,
It tolls the time.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, Mr. Morelli, why don't you come up and... You okay, sir? Notice you're limping.
Well, I had a knee surgery. I had a major knee surgery. Basically, when I was here last time, I tried to do everything to comply with the time, and I did. You can ask Glenn, I did everything. And like you told the other people, I was in mercy of the contractor. I hired East Coast Welding, which I referred by Joe Hopkins, my engineering. I met him day or 2 days before my surgery, and I agreed with him that he's going to pull up a permit and fix it. And then I called Glenn, and she told me to come to the city to sign affidavit so they can come and apply for permit. But less than a week later, I had the surgery on March 11. I
Okay.
got from them an estimate, which I agreed, I signed. I sent them the full amount, which was $909, including permits and everything. And I thought that was done. And they told me in 1 week or 2 weeks it's going to be finished. Then I was in touch with my engineering. And then with the city, I noticed that they did not do it. So I keep calling them. They told me tomorrow, later, tomorrow. Then I found out that the issue that they didn't pull up a permit.
This is
And
East
I called
Coast,
Steve.
correct?
Huh?
This is East Coast that didn't
Yes,
do it?
yes.
Okay.
And I already paid them. And I couldn't do anything. And my contractor, he got busy in Orlando, he couldn't come. And I talked to Steve, I called my contractor. He told me if you want me to pull up a permit, then I need like so much money. So I called
I thought you already paid it.
like $1,500 just to pull another permit for them. And he didn't need to do nothing. So I already paid them. So I was in between everybody. So I called East Coast. I spoke with Stacy. Then they transferred me to Melissa and another girl. And they drug me from one to another. I couldn't drive that time. I started driving just in like May.
Okay.
Something, yeah. For about a month and a half, I couldn't drive. So I spoke with Glenn. I told her that I tried to come to the first hearing, which I couldn't. Make a long story short, in the end, I talked to the owner. I told him, listen, if you don't want to do it, that's fine, but now I'm violation, I'm gonna get my attorney involved. So he told me, wait, let me see what, they pull up a permit. I just noticed on Friday that they did it. They didn't even call me. I came myself over there to see, and the column was done. So I took picture of it, I have it on my phone, I can show you.
Okay,
You wanna see it?
I do want to see it.
Okay. I took the picture of the column.
Could you show it to Ms. Herstein?
Engineer.
Right, could you show it to Ms. Herstein first before you show it to me, please?
Yeah, I will show you. Here.
Nope, show it to her
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry.
Come on. Fair is fair, she has to have the opportunity to object.
I took picture. Okay, so they put the new column. Now, when
Okay.
they put the new column.
Is there any objection to me seeing that?
They basically, to put it, they had to break from the top so they can fit the column.
Okay.
Now, when we checked after what.
I don't
Steve
get to see
mentioned Last time, when we checked the column, we saw that.
May I see it?
Huh?
You wanted to show it to me.
Ah, I thought you
Can I
said
see
you
it?
want her to see it. I'm
No.
sorry.
All right. Okay, so I see what they've done. I see the plate, and it just needs aesthetics
Yeah, it
finish.
just need cosmetic. So I spoke to my engineering, and
Okay,
he needs to get with Steve to get approved what we needed to do.
okay.
Basically, I only know that this is last Friday I took it. So,
And today is Wednesday. Has it been fixed since then?
well, I spoke to my engineer on Friday. It doesn't work on Monday, and he said, "Don't do nothing until you will talk to Steve to see what we need to do, and we're gonna do it." So it's now between my engineering and Steve. Once they agree, the next day will be done.
All right, Mr. Morelli, I can't do anything for you until you are finished with this project, okay? I understand where you're coming from. I'd like to see the contracts that you signed with these people and the dates on them the next time you come back, okay?
I have
I know you may have them, but I need to see them, please, okay? Because right now, you've got $12,900 worth of fines. If I'm able to piece this together through the documentation, I may be able to do something for you. You understand?
yeah.
Okay. All right, so as soon as that's done, tell Ms. Herstein, and we'll get you on the next docket, and we'll talk about this entire situation.
Okay, when the next meeting? Because I'm going overseas in July 4th
Oh.
and July 14th.
Okay, well, let me see. The next meeting is scheduled for July 21st,
All right.
so you should be here. Okay, where are you going?
To Israel.
Oh, enjoy yourself.
Hmm?
Hot there this time of year.
Okay,
All right, so I will see you July 21st
okay,
with pictures of everything done.
okay.
And Ms. Herstein, which number order are you looking for here?
And order number 11, please.
Okay, I thought I had written that down. So I'm going to issue an order number 11. Order that you pay the $85.53 in administrative within 60 days. And do you think you can have this done in 30 days? So that I can have you at the next
I
meeting?
can have it done today. It's
All right,
depends-
within 30 days, I'd like you to come into compliance, or $150 per day additional? Or are we still running on the original?
Correct.
All right, within 30 days. All right, Mr. Morelli, enjoy your trip.
Okay,
I'll see you when you get back, okay?
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
If I may, Your Honor, I just wanted to know the dates of the trip, if you know them, because if something
You
happens...
said July 4th through the 14th,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
okay? All right.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's everything, correct? Next meeting is, as mentioned, July 21st. And thank you, everyone. Appreciate how smoothly we've gotten these things to run.
You mean last time, right? Not this
Well, a technical glitch, we still finished this in an hour,
That's true.
you know?
I had promised Sherry. She's going to Hawaii or something.
You're going to Hawaii today?
I have an 11 o'clock meeting. That's all.
Oh, okay. I got back from Las Vegas Monday, well, Tuesday morning, like at 1:30. So that's why I have coffee, because I'm still living on that. Everything was fine till we got to Orlando, and it was almost 2 hours to get the last bag. We got the first two, and the third one, we waited and waited and waited and waited.
Did they lose it?
Nope. The bag handlers went on break and didn't come back for 2 hours. They got half the plane done, and I guess they got tired. Very irate people.